Good morning, BIX here, roadrooter.com. Your morning Horn of Z's, your news for the morning. Good day, great day at Roadrooter. Hang on one second. That was my Horn of Z's, means sip of coffee in a language called Bootling from Northern California. Anyway, it's always a great day at the Roadrooter when Clif High has a new report out. It means I have a week of studying it and trying to figure out what he's actually saying. Just like he has to interpret his data that he gets from the internet, from the web bots, we have to interpret Clif's analysis of the data. Just as fun. Well, probably a lot easier than what Clif has to do, but it's just as fun because he gives us the keywords, the words in brackets are the keywords that the data pulls out, and the rest is his interpretation of those keywords and how they, how the language changes over time, and that's the dynamic of where he draws this picture of our future. I have not read this report yet, but it is called 7 C's, another cool picture on the front. As you can tell, my take is from the emails I've gotten from Clif lately is a lot will have to do with massive amounts of rain coming to the west coast of the United States, where Clif is. Clif's up north, so he gets more than I do. But nothing is spared coming towards the middle of California either, which is where I live. So I'm sure it's got to do with water and water travel, because there'll be a lot of that. Clif is a big-time sailor, boatsman. I don't know what he calls himself. He lives in the Salish Sea up in Washington. So, yeah, he's been at sea a long time, and I'm sure this report will be very enlightening, and I can't wait to get into it. But there's things to do. There's other things to do, and it's nice to be back where I do the Road-to-Ruta stuff, home base in my office, and let's get going. All right, that one's done. I don't want to do that. Oh, there it is. All right, let's get into the news because there's a lot going on. Insanity, and yesterday my morning newscast was called something to the effect of "It will get messy." The transition will get messy, and it's definitely getting messy. And it's hard to interpret what Trump's doing, what's the world doing, what's China doing, how's the takeout of the bad guys going. So hard to decipher all this stuff because everything has changed. And it changes every day. It's crazy. But let's start with China threatens retaliation to Trump's steel protectionism. If the United States does take protectionist measures, then other countries are likely to take justifiable retaliatory actions against U.S. companies that have an advantage in fields such as finance and high tech, leading to a tit-for-tat trade war that benefits no one, the official China Daily said in an editorial on Monday, warning it would retaliate to any protectionism unleashed by the Trump administration. Trump is not a dummy. Everybody knows that protectionism is kind of the last straw and destroys everything because everybody does the same thing. And everybody's got their certain export that they rely on, that they have control over the markets. We were selling steel factories to China not too long ago, like 10, 15 years ago, and now Trump is throwing out protectionism. This is all about destroying the economic system, destroying the unbacked monetary system. China knows it. Trump knows it. Everybody knows that protectionism leads to destruction of global trade. And that's part of the road to Ruta, is the end of globalism. Financial Times came out with an editorial by none other than Alan Greenspan not too long ago, talking about protectionism, or the end of globalism. A little bit about protectionism, but mainly the end of globalism and how the end of globalism would destroy markets as we know it. And look it up. I think it's called either the end of globalism or something like that, from Financial Times, Alan Greenspan. It was an editorial that he wrote. But yeah, that's all part of the plan. Destroy the system any way you can. One way is to create as much money as possible. And that's exactly what the United States is doing with the printing presses, the electronic printing presses. But another way is to reverse globalism. And it would destroy the banks. It would destroy everybody. But it looks like Trump's doing it, and China's playing along their part. And speaking of Trump doing it, border wall shutdown. Team Trump threatens government shutdown over beautiful wall. The wall is a very important tool in stopping drugs from pouring into our country and poisoning our youth and many others. No, that's not a tool for stopping drugs pouring into our country. Shutting down the CIA operation that brings the drugs in, I would say, is an important tool for stopping drugs. Why not just legalize them all? Obviously that's the way to, one, you can make more revenue if you're the government who's so massively in debt that they really want to pay off the debt. The reality is there is no plan to pay off the debt. They don't want to pay off the debt, and no country has ever paid off the debt. I think the scariest thing for the United States if we tried to really balance the budget and really pay off the debt. That means the bad guys have won because they can keep the system going for as long as they want. It's exactly the opposite. The worse our debt, the less the likelihood that any kind of fiscal partnership or fixing of the problems happens. That's a terrible thing. That means the bad guys can drag this thing on for decades, and that is not what we want. So Trump is doing the exact right thing. Shut down the government. Shut down the government from this crazy wall thing. I believe Mexico will build the wall. They're going to build the wall so that the people of the United States don't get into Mexico and start digging up all the silver that goes to $10,000 an ounce. So, yeah, that's my take on that. Now, here's an interesting one. Bomb attack hits secretive U.S. base in Afghanistan as Mattis makes surprise visit to Kabul. Taliban insurgents attacked a U.S.-operated base in Afghanistan's eastern province in Khost on Monday, officials said, but gave few immediate details of an assault that coincided with a surprise visit to Kabul by U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis. The attackers detonated a car bomb at the entrance to Camp Chapman, a secretive facility manned by U.S. forces and private military contractors. And there's a picture of this bomb. That's not a car bomb. That's a real bomb. That is a gigantic bomb. What do I think? I think we've been running drugs out of Afghanistan, opium, and I think that the quote private military contractors are working for the bad guys. There's no doubt in my mind. Possibly, most likely, even the U.S. forces that are stationed at this secretive military base. I think this is a good guy strike against the funding of the bad guys' operation. Bad guys get their funds now. They used to get it from the Yamashita's gold, but now they get it mostly from drug running. And I believe this is probably, I'd say 95% chance this is related to destroying the bad guys that are within Afghanistan. And yes, it nailed U.S. military forces and it nailed private military contractors. Hopefully, if there was any good guys in there, I'm sure that before the strike happened, the good guys that pulled off the strike pulled out are good guys. I doubt there was any good guys there. So I think this is a strike done by and orchestrated by the good guys, and that's why Mattis was there. To make sure, one, that they're hitting the right place, and two, that they take out these criminals that are running drugs out of Afghanistan to finance the operations of the Clintons and the Bushes and the Obamas and everybody else. That's how they make their money. So that's the road to take. And if you're asking for proof to back it up, I don't have any proof at all. None. But it makes sense. A secretive facility manned by U.S. forces and private military contractors. Those private military contractors, there's no reason for them to be in there. And why are U.S. forces guarding private military contractors? And you notice it's not private contractors. It's not people like building hospitals, $30 million to build a little shack. No, this is the bad guy. This is a fight taken to the bad guys. So the battles continue behind the scenes that you will never hear about. We might hear about it. There's always some leaks here and there. Maybe Binful will say something about this. We'll find out, though. Chinese stocks and bonds, commodities shun global euphoria amid government leverage crackdown. All markets are rigged via computers and derivatives. Chinese have their own rigging operations, but the U.S. can rig the Chinese stock market just as they can rig the European stock market. I would say the U.S. does most of the rigging, but a lot is in cooperation with other governments. China's moves, I think, are directed at a certain target for something to someone to be taken out, most likely. And most likely, knowing China, they're trying to clean up their markets, as opposed to the United States that has the dirtiest markets in the world. China's trying to fix the problem so that they can land on their feet. I don't think they will land on their feet. I think you're crazy to own stock on a Chinese market. They have two markets, really. One is for the Chinese citizens, and it's traded. I forgot the name of the shares. It's like special shares that they could trade, and then one for the rest of the world. So guess which one they'll throw away when the monetary system collapses. It's quite funny, but the banks love investing in China, and they love getting their money in there and try to suck money out. But the Chinese are too smart. They figured out this game long ago. They know all about the computers. I think they were in it from the very beginning, judging from the Road to Ruta character in the very first comic of the Fed in 1981 version looked pretty Chinese to me. And then it changed to what the artist, which I contacted the artist of the 2007 version of Wishes and Rainbows. This is the Fed comics. And she said, I said, are they Chinese still? Or because it looked a little different. And she said she was told to create the characters in the comic with muddled ethnicity. That's what she was told, muddled, which means a little mix of everything, I would suppose. Anyway, yeah, China knows what's going on. Everybody knows what's going on except us, except the mainstream people who are not allowed, unless we can figure it out, which is the Road to Ruta. We're not allowed to know exactly what's going on, so hang in there, people. And then North Korea, an increasingly worried Chinese president tells Trump to exercise restraint over North Korea. You know what's interesting about North Korea and China and the U.S.? It's kind of bouncing back and forth. If Trump says something good about Chinese trade, good for China, China will show force and say, "Oh, we got troops on the border." As soon as Trump says something bad, like putting in tariffs against China on steel, then China's going to say, "Oh, North Korea, U.S., this is your problem. We're worried, and you need to exercise restraint." It's kind of like I said, everything's getting messy, really messy, and I think it's on purpose because the old system is not going to work much longer. They have to mix it up and mess everybody's also so you can't game it. So the shorts on the stock market always crack me up, because if you're betting against the government who has the computer that can put any price on the stocks that they want, you're crazy. You're insane. You got to get out of the system, get physical metal in your own hands, and then you will be able to sit back and watch this game like I do every day. I sit there, I look at the insanity that's going on. 99% of the time, you can't even explain what's going on. But sometimes in the background, you're going, okay, maybe this is the strategy, maybe this is the move. And then lately, it's been very difficult because Trump, that bastard, is jumping up all around. There's no singular focus now. It's basically a free-for-all of messiness out there. But we hang in there. We keep doing what we do. Talk quickly about the French elections. They're saying, "Oh, Le Pen, Macron beat Le Pen badly in all this." Well, it comes down to two. They have another election, I think, on the 7th of May. And Le Pen and Macron are the two people who won a spot. So now they're voting against two. But, of course, all the mainstream media are saying, "Oh, Le Pen's screwed now. She's going to lose by 60%. Where have we heard that before? I don't know how much power the good guys have in Europe. That's kind of the stronghold. The EU and the European masters in Brussels have a lot of power over every European country, so I don't know if Le Pen will be able to pull this one off. If she does, that's strike three for the bad guys. You got the Brexit, you got Trump, and then you got Le Pen, who definitely wants to get out of the euro, and every country should be getting out of the euro. Most of the countries will be forced out of the euro because of imploding banks, which is going on in Italy and Spain and Portugal and and most likely in the derivatives in the French banks, and definitely at Deutsche Bank. I heard Deutsche Bank was up like 10% today, but it had fallen like 30%, so 10% is not a big move. And this is kind of a reactionary move. This is what happens when something big, anything they can hold their hat to, they pump the market. So you're going to see the European markets just skyrocket for a couple days because they can. With computers and derivatives, the EU can pump the market just like the US pumps the market. And that's exactly what the EU did. There's no doubt in my mind. There's so much manipulation going on by the big players. I don't think it'll last long. It'll probably reverse course very soon. So we'll see how the relief rally goes. Just think if Le Pen wins on May 7th, what's going to happen to the European stock market then? If the potential for her to lose is driving the stock market down, what's going to happen if she wins? They'll figure some lame excuse and the stock market will keep going up most likely. But it'll be kind of tough to argue that, oh, it's a good thing because she wants to leave the EU and she plans on doing it quickly. All right, that's your news for the morning. Make sure you go to halfpasthuman.com and buy Clif High's report. It's only $15. It's called 7 C's. And here's again there's the picture, really cool picture. And I will be digesting this report and get back to you as far as the Road to Ruta stuff I find in there that is always fun to extract and put my own little analysis on it. Obviously, Clif has the more experience at it, but I come at it from the Road to Ruta angle, which is a little different. Anyway, it's Vic Swear, roadtoruta.com. Don't forget to subscribe to these videos. I posted 1,000 videos in the last couple months, and I think 3 or 4 in the last few days. Make sure you subscribe to the videos, and if you sign up at roadtoruta.com, put your email in and your name, you get a free book, a PDF book called Silver, Gold, Bitcoin, and God. And I'll be talking more today, this afternoon, about silver because we're at a really exciting time. And hang in there. Buy as much physical as you can get. All right, we'll talk to you soon.